Destination Yori, the morning program. I'm Rowan Hand. Martin Savage from Warren Point, a man of Judo, a man of the Orient, because your values are the same kind of theological, to use the word in its widest sense, of a philosophical lifestyle of being strong, being in control, being disciplined, being gentle, but being tough when you need to be. That sums it up, does it not?
Probably, yeah. It'd be an eclectic type of thing, I suppose, as well. You know, it's not pure Oriental philosophy or discipline. Obviously, it's Western, but it's influenced, if you like, by experiences in Japan. Yeah.
Very Western. I was in a place last evening. I was with Peter Kyo of Kyo Garage. They do Nissan, the car people.
Yes.
And I said, is this Korea? Japan, of course.
Yeah.
And the Japanese, the economy is beginning to grow again. It's all beginning to move forward, and the vehicles, including electric vehicles, are now coming in very much in tune with the whole ecological thing.
You say it, there are actually now more recharging points in Japan, I think, rather than Tokyo, than there are garages, refueling stations.
Really? So they've gone. They've made the jump.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah. But just you talking there about the Japanese economy, I was reading there Shinzo Abe, the Japanese Prime Minister.
Yes.
And he's been making a few sounds recently. He's had a few faux pas. Playing golf whenever the two guys were being beheaded.
Oh my God!
But his argument with that was that it was keeping his head right.
Yeah, that's...
and he needed to do this because Obama did exactly the same.
Yes, keep steady.
Yeah.
Keep steady and
but,
keep chilled.
Exactly.
So you can make good decisions.
Exactly. But one of the things he's come out with is that he's trying to downplay the role of Japan in the comfort women from Korea and China during the expansionism in the
when we
1940s.
say comfort women, we're talking about an Oriental prostitute.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
These women were kidnapped from their homes and used as prostitutes for the Japanese soldiers during the war. But he's trying to downplay this. It's almost as if he's trying to sanitize history, if you like.
Yeah.
And
so that's impossible.
Well, this week the Crown Prince Naruhito, that's Akihito's son, he's come out and said that there's a need to write history correctly. That there's it's upon the older generation who experienced the war to put this information about what actually happened correctly to the younger generation, so that it never happens again.
Absolutely. And that's why Japan, after Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the dropping of the bomb of those two cities, that's why they vowed they would never go to war again.
Exactly.
When the emperor was brought
downgraded to an ordinary person,
an earthly person.
Exactly. And just funny you say that. That's happened for a long, long time and that's one of the reasons why the Japanese economy expanded so quickly, because their finances didn't have to go into keeping an army. They had a self-defense force, but basically their defense was being looked after by the Americans.
Wow, so I never thought of that. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
It is, yeah.
If you don't have a defense budget,
exactly,
then you can invest and grow.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Am I right in thinking that they had this capacity to see, for instance, a washing machine or a pen or a motorbike, and they would buy it and take it apart, deconstruct it in the finest design detail, and then start to do their own thing on it, to build it and make it more cheaply and sell. That's the secret of the success.
That seemed to be it, but it's I suppose it's a cliche, but the Japanese radio would be the example of that. We started off with radios. Our radios in the 1950s and 60s were boxes.
That's right.
That's right. And the Japanese were making them smaller and smaller.
Transistor.
The transistor, exactly.
They were doing. I do remember, there are little icons in your life, and it was a Japanese radio. When I went to sea as a 19-year-old boy, I bought a Japanese transistor radio for my father.
Yes.
And brought it home to him, and it was lovely. It was beautifully designed. It was a work of technological art, if you like.
Yeah.
And I'll always remember that, and the quality there was great. But isn't it an amazing race of people who can, in one company, produce a piano, a musical instrument, under the same name as they produce a motorcycle, Yamaha,
exactly,
whatever, things like that.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, Mitsubishi are involved in putting down railway lines for, they're actually involved in a contract at the moment in California to try and get a contract there to this new Japanese or American high-speed railway system that's going in there. They're bidding for this, but the Chinese are undercutting them. So they may not get it.
Your observation of Japan came after your understanding and your participation in the Japanese art of judo and the discipline of judo. The coming into Ireland of judo, it didn't come with cymbals and music playing. It was all gentle. It came in quietly.
Came in very quietly. It came in through, like most things came into Ireland, I suppose, in that sense, was through England, through the United Kingdom. Judo started probably in Northern Ireland around about the mid-1950s, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas it had been in England for a lot longer than that, from the early part of the 20th century. I'm sure there were Irish people who did judo in England, but it really only came on the Northern Ireland at that stage. It's now called the Northern Ireland Judo Federation, but in those days it was just an area of the British Judo Association. It was the Northern Ireland area, and it wasn't until the early 70s that it became the Northern Ireland Judo Federation in its own right. But there were people like Jerry Nevin, and there was a Japanese man called Yamada. Right, he's dead a few years now, but he gave his name to a very, very famous club in Belfast called the Yamada Kai.
Yeah.
Right, and a lot of the present day judoka would have come from or been taught by people who trained in the Yamada Kai in Belfast.
Yeah. Have you ever? Now you've been doing judo for all of your adult life, and before. Since
1966.
Yeah. Can you remember? I was going to sea then, so we were starting to grow together in different directions.
Yeah.
But can you remember a time when you're tired of judo, when you thought, this is too much for me, I've done it as much, I'm so tired of it, and go on to something else?
Yep.
There was such a time.
Oh, there were times when, yes, like that, but I never did, stop it. I might have, tested the water with other things. I did a little bit of karate, I did a little bit of ninjutsu and things like that. I tried all the little things. But at the end of the day, the core values that I wanted, I found in judo. And I think as you get older, the things that you thought were important in judo when you were younger become less important. Like getting your black belt, for example. You asked me about this last week or the week before, and it's when you're 18, 19 years old, getting that black belt is the thing you want to do.
Yes.
And it's only whenever you get it you realise how of little importance it is, because it's the knowledge that you have, and it's the journey, and not the arrival that's important.
Yes.
And it's what you've learned in actually getting there. And once you've got the black belt, you put it on. Okay, it feels great for a couple of days, and people are sort of patting you on the back. But then you start to think, where do I go from here?
That's right.
That's
right.
I know people who become black belts, done their grading, got their black belt, and then quit. And I thought that is such a waste.
Madness.
Such a waste.
Very, very wasteful indeed. But now, as you look back, as a human being, what has judo, from it done to your deep heart's core? How has it changed you? What kind of human being has it made you?
It's hard to answer that because you don't know what sort of human being you would have been if you hadn't had done judo. But an early teenager, even though I'd been doing judo at that stage, it still was. It wasn't. I hadn't sort of. I hadn't absorbed it, in a sense. I was doing the physical aspect of judo. I was going on the mat and I was training, but the philosophy of it, or the ethics, hadn't absorbed it at that stage. And then I think I was probably a very selfish sort of person. I would have been very opinionated. Now, I'm not saying I'm not opinionated now, but I keep it to myself. I know when to voice my opinion and when not.
And because of the maturity that comes with years,
yes,
you now have a seed bed that accommodates that that being opinionated situation. You're there with some foundation for it.
Yes, and the other thing about it is too that you learn that not to meet things head on. If I'm having a discussion with you about some topic And I can see right away that I am not going to beat you down just by sheer argument alone, by browbeating you, basically. That's, in judo, what you do is you try and lead people along, rather than actually try and beat them down.
And in judo, you're leading them. You're leading them physically, and in your your situation, you're leading people intellectually and emotionally into where you want to be.
That is the thing. And sometimes, there's another expression in judo that's used quite a lot. It's hold on tightly, but let go lightly.
Let go lightly.
Which means basically that, as long as something is still achievable, you hold on as long as you can. But once it's not achievable, then you just let go of it. There's no point hanging on to it anymore. And it's the same with argument in a sense. I think you get to a stage with people where you realise you're not going to win them round.
Yeah.
They're not going to come your way. So there's no point just standing around, just chewing the fat just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
You just let it go.
And that's an empowerment rather than a defeat.
I think it is. It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Retirement is going well with you.
Retirement is going
You're
well.
now just over a year in.
About 18 months or so.
18 months.
Yeah. And still looking forward to achieving certain things that I couldn't have done whenever I was talking to you about. I'm still working on the book.
Well, you should.
That'll be a long time when they go.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be, because there are ways of doing it, and you really ought to do that. The book will take you over what course? Where will you be? It's a kata. Kata would be my thing in judo, I think. And it's this particular kata that I'm looking at. Nagano kata is the kata of throws. And it's trying to relate kata, which is the form, to what people actually do on the mat in terms of randori and contest. Because people sometimes can't see, most of the time they can't see the connection. Form is something that's separate, and what they do in the mat is a totally different thing. And I'm trying to sort of relate the two together. And the book will do that
when
it comes,
it's certainly doing it in my mind. Whether I can get that across to other people or not, I think.
You have been getting things across to other people all the days of your life in your teaching.
Yeah.
Talking of teaching, we lost a good teacher in Newry at the weekend, Paul Hoban. He was the head of history at St. Coleman's College.
Yes, I didn't know him well, but I knew of him.
Yeah, he was he was a very strong man in his own way. Yeah. He was a total devotee of causes he took to himself, and we are a poorer community for the loss of Paul. I'd like to thank you for coming in. And we'll see you next week.
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully, let's do it. Let's do it and see where we're going. Martin Savage of Warren Point.
Thank you, Rowan.